Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Live Healthy Now. Today I'm chatting with a lovely guest, Issy Howell, about motherhood and balancing being a new parent with running your own business and taking care of yourself, which I know is a struggle for many people. Time is the biggest obstacle that I get thrown at me from people about why they can't live a healthier life and make changes and put new habits in place. So Izzy has found over the last 5 months since having her baby daughter that time has definitely changed in her life. So welcome to the podcast, Izzy.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thanks, Nicola.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you. And I know you're not fully back from maternity leave, so I appreciate you making some time to have a chat with us as you start to gently ease yourself back into the business.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been an interesting sort of return, I suppose, because being a business owner, you end up kind of dipping in and out anyway throughout the whole process. So it's less of a sort of return and more of just a kind of ebb
Mm.
and flow a little bit at this point.
Oh. So just before we start and chat about, the changes that have happened and how you navigate those, it would be good to know what your most impactful healthy habit is.
Ooh, my most impactful healthy habit. Wow, I have to really think about that one. I think my healthy habit would have to be I'm a good sleeper mostly. So I find
Oh.
getting some good sleep is really important. And if I don't have a good chunk of sleep, I just feel awful. My immune system fails, everything just goes downhill. So I think sleep is probably my number one thing, and that's probably not the thing to lead with when you're talking about a newborn. But I would
Oh, but
say,
I think, yeah, we can dive straight into that. Nobody has, from what I recall, given sleep, but I do say that sleep is the most missed part of the well-being puzzle. It's really undervalued by people. So how has your sleep changed then since you've had baby Esme?
oh wow, it's not been too
Is she,
bad.
is she a good sleeper?
It's well, as of recording, she's all right. We I managed to get over 5 hours, 6 hours a night. So it's kind of that's been an adjustment, but it's at least I'm not sort of in the minutes, at least I'm in the hours. And I've sort of relished that. I think before I had her, I used to I used to find sleep was the most important thing to making sure I could be productive, etc. Because I could sleep for a solid 9 hours and then I'd be fine for the rest of the day. But if I didn't, I just feel awful. So I think I've gradually gotten better at getting less sleep and working on that. But I think she seems to not be, awake all night. Touch wood. I'm holding onto my desk as I say that.
Mm. Oh, I tell you what, she sounds like an angel giving you 5 or 6 hours sleep at just a few months old. So, knowing that you need your sleep and you know how vital it is to the way you want to feel, is there anything that you've adjusted since having the baby to help you still be able to get as much quality sleep as what you really would like?
I think we've just tried to really establish a routine, and whether that's a routine for her or for me, essentially, I'm not sure. Because it's become kind of our routine that we'll always try and go to bed at the same time. Which is unfortunately it's not going to bed to sleep, but I go to bed at about 8 o'clock, and she goes in at 8 as well. And even if I'm awake for the next few hours, she's like asleep next to me, and it's kind of that's kind of become a bit of a rhythm. But I think I've tried to balance the lack of, or the drop in good sleeping hours. I think I've managed to balance that by walking a lot more and just sort of trying to enjoy being out and about at the same time. So trying to keep active, because if I just lie around in the house all day, I think I just feel worse. So trying to keep myself awake and energized is probably the best way to do it, really.
Yeah, oh, I love that. So, how has it been then since having the baby? Because you told me that you were quite an active person before being pregnant, and it did change during pregnancy because of how you felt. And, having the baby now to look after is a huge time time requirement for any parent, isn't it? So yeah, what's it been like trying to bring back some of your old habits that you know are the ones that make you feel well and strong?
I think the whole transition from being kind of pretty active as a business owner, that was kind of like my life basically as of, well, last year. And that was sort of what I did all the time, and that was how my days were driven, how all my time was driven, and that was kind of my main focus essentially. And then other than obviously family and friends and everyone as well. But when I was pregnant, I found really hard, as we were saying before. I found the the lack of being able to get anywhere comfortably was really quite difficult. I struggled a lot with like just physical pain throughout quite a lot of it
Mm.
towards the end, and it made me feel quite isolated because obviously I couldn't go places like I used to go. I used to love just sticking my headphones on and just walking into town or whatever it was, and I couldn't do that anymore, and it felt really frustrating that I was sort of stuck behind my desk all the time when I like to just be out and about. So when I had Esme, I was actually, I mean, obviously, I'm very lucky that I had a very quick recovery. So I was sort of up and about and walking places and feeling a bit more active after about a couple of weeks. So after that point, I didn't want to take the fact I could be active again for granted, and then I sort of ended up going on walks with the pushchair as much as I possibly could. And granted, it was February, so it was freezing, but I managed to get myself out there. And I think that it was a bit of a I sort of threw myself back into it quite quickly because I was so excited to be feeling a bit more like myself. But I think along the way, I might have lost a little bit about myself before. Like I felt like I was still struggling with how clothes fit and how I felt in the clothes I was wearing. And I think when I was pregnant, I threw out a lot of my clothes in a rage of thinking, oh, this doesn't fit anymore. And I just slung everything in the bin, and realizing that actually I don't have half of my pajamas or my tops because I chucked them all away in last year. So I've gradually been kind of learning again what makes me feel good to wear, what makes me feel comfortable, what makes me sort of feel good about myself, and that's been kind of a longer process. So like the physical element of being able to not necessarily bounce back, but to get back at it and feel active again was a lot quicker than the process of mentally just wrapping my head around how I felt amongst all of that. I suppose I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does absolutely. I had a very difficult pregnancy and birth, so I did have quite a long recovery physically, but also the mental side I completely can associate with what you're saying. And I think that's a really important thing to raise because I know, I mean, my daughter's 15, so it was a long time ago when I was pregnant. I've always said that there was very little shared about how you would feel after having the baby. You know, when you are pregnant, it's such a special and almost magical time. You know, I know some people do have difficult pregnancies and it can be quite a nervous period as well, but it is very special. And everyone that you meet, even a stranger on the street, wants to ask you about your pregnancy. And it's very exciting, isn't it? But nobody then really focuses on what comes apart from the fact you're going to have your baby, you know, with regard to how you change, because there is a big shift in you. I think just going through that whole period of growing a baby, you know, in that 9 months, it's such a long length of time where you change so much, don't you, physically? I think it's just very normal to have that time to adjust afterwards. And I'm not sure that you ever go back to who you were before. How do you feel with where you are with that now?
I think I feel pretty good. I think the it was because I mean this eyeliner and this sort of the way my face looks like this has kind of been my sort of go-to since I was probably about 15, to be honest. So that's kind of part of my identity, I suppose. And like I remember I think I was about 4 weeks after I'd had Esme. I I put my eyeliner back on, and I think everyone around me went, "Oh, look, you're back!" And I was like, because it just sort of felt like me again, and I looked like me again. And that was like a quite a big moment to be able to just feel like that part again, and that was quite a noticeable moment. But I think I've because I had very short hair when I first found out I was pregnant, and I just sort of the last thing I wanted to do was sit in a hair salon, so I just let my hair grow out. So if I look at what I look like now versus what I did 12 months ago from here, I look completely different, and it's very strange that I think I went through a obviously the physical change of having a child, but also the change of how I also my appearance changed as well, and that was something that I had to wrap my head around. I think when I was also wrapping my head around being postpartum, it was also how do I look now? Now
Mm.
I'm back and I can and clothes kind of fit again, and oh, and I don't have half of my clothes anymore, and I need to go shopping and working out what fits and what suits, and just generally kind of going with what I feel comfortable in. So some days I'll want to dress up and feel really good about myself in one way, but other days I'll not really make as much of an effort but still feel good and comfortable. And I think that you do when you do go through that shift from having a child and well through being pregnant and then having them is that you do get a new respect for your body and what it's capable of doing. Like I think I've definitely learned what my limits are and what my strengths are physically, because before I was even pregnant, I always thought I had terrible stamina. I always thought I was, physically not very fit. But I look at what I went through and look at that physical process, and then I realize actually I am quite healthy. I have got quite good stamina. I am quite good at these things. And I kind of got a new respect for how my body looks and how I feel in it. And I've got a new respect for what it's capable of. So it's not just about appearance, it's more about strength and stamina and all these things that I never really even thought about or even valued before I was pregnant. So that's a very new thing that I can appreciate new things about me, which is really exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next.
Oh, that's very empowering. I love that. And I'm with you on that as well, because I was someone who always used to think, oh, I don't, know that I'd be able to cope with a pregnancy. I've got no threshold for pain. I'm not very good when it comes to, struggling with things that go wrong from a physical health point of view. How would I cope when I don't feel good for all of those months? But then when I was in that position of being pregnant, it was very empowering to know that I was carrying my baby, that I was growing my baby. And then, as you say, going through labour is very difficult. It's not called labour for no reason, but it gives you that feeling of inner strength, doesn't it? That you're capable of doing something so profound as bringing a baby into the world. So it's amazing to hear that that's how you feel. I can see it radiating from you as well as you're talking very, animatedly about the way that you feel and how you're looking forward to that being part of your next chapter. So as you do come back to the business and it's your business, as you said, you co-own the business with your dad, it's a lovely family business that you run together, there are going to be some adjustments to make because you have got responsibility as a parent now. So how are you feeling about that? Have you made any plans?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, so far I've kind of dipped in and out, essentially since, well, I think my baby was probably a few weeks old when I started to just dip in and see how things were going and check in, because it's there's a I felt like there was a bit of a perception that when you do have a career, when you do have a business or you have a job that you love or whatever, or a passion, that just having a baby as a woman means that therefore that's your entire life now, and you don't have those interests still from before you were pregnant, or you don't have that those passions and that love of your job and whatever it was before you had your baby. And I found that um it was a bit of an adjustment, because obviously it felt like it was extra joy. It felt like I had still the job that I love, and now I have someone that I unconditionally adore. And I think that it was kind of a weird shift where actually I didn't just suddenly go, right, I don't work anymore, I don't have a job, I don't like my job, I only want to focus on my baby. Instead, it's kind of become a bit of an amalgamation of the two. So I really still love the buzz that I get from my job. I love being able to edit. I love being able to meet people and go on shoots and, speak to, all kinds of businesses and all kinds of organizations. And being able to do that and also have the joy of my little girl is just the best feeling ever. And I think that so far I'm still finding that balance of not putting too much pressure on myself. So we are a very kind of deadline focused business. We do kind of drive a really, really high standard when it comes to creativity, when it comes to the content we deliver. And I've always probably maybe pushed myself too hard in the past, and now I've kind of learned to be a bit kinder to myself. So obviously deadlines still get met and things still happen in the business. The standards haven't dropped in any way, but I might maybe not start at 8 o'clock on the dot anymore. I might not stay at my desk till 6 o'clock at night. The way I do my job has fundamentally changed. Like I might be editing a promo for a client while I'm bouncing a bouncer on with my foot on the sofa, like, still like while eating a sandwich with the other hand and trying to do, but the output, the final project at the end, it's still just as good and the client is still just as happy. So how I go about doing that and delivering that work, it doesn't matter if it doesn't look pretty while you're doing it. It doesn't matter if it's at random hours of the day or whatever it may be. But my focus is to obviously keep the standards that we had before, but be kinder to myself, that I don't have to put those rigid pressures on myself or rigid timeline, whatever it may be. And to be honest, I didn't really talk about being pregnant while I was pregnant. And I think a lot of people didn't even realize until I was sending emails going, I'm actually on maternity leave. And that was a bit of a shock to a lot of people, because I just kind of cracked on and carried on with my job and carried on editing and whatever it may be. So that was a bit of an adjustment, but I've loved just being able to work flexibly around my baby and being able to bring her in. I've brought her into the office and she's like the belle of the ball, and she absolutely loves it. And being able to kind of blend those worlds together, because when I was a kid, my dad, who I now obviously run a business with, he worked in business when I was a kid, and I remember going to his office as a little girl and seeing like things happening and seeing that industry and that world. And I think that had a massive impact on why I'm doing it now. So hopefully she'll be able to grow up seeing her mum doing what she loves and in thriving, hopefully, and enjoying it, and knowing that she can also do that, or she can learn from that and be in that world. And I've not really I've not shied away from, I have taken her to client meetings. I have taken her to, I've rocked up on shoots to drop in. I have done Zoom calls, all sorts, with her, just with me. And, and a lot of people are quite accepting of that, and that's great. And a lot of people are very kind of supportive of that. So it's not I don't have to be super strict with how I do things anymore. It's very relaxed. It is quite flexible, and the work still gets done. So I realize now I didn't have to put all the pressure on myself that I used to. So that's quite nice.
That's an interesting reflection in itself, isn't it? It's quite a powerful one. And I think there's a lot of self-awareness coming through as you're talking about it all. It, feels as though you've taken time to think about how you want things to be, rather than jumping into, as you said, maybe being more rigid with, well, I've got to go to work and that's my job and this is how it was before and it has to be the same. And now, the baby needs to go, which I'm sure at times she will be with, someone else looking after her. But you've really thought about, how can I make this work for me? Because I do feel good. I feel as though I want to be both business owner and mum together and not separate those, which certainly for me, I felt as though I didn't have a choice. I was an employee. I had to go back after maternity leave. leave. I absolutely dreaded going back. In all honesty, I broke my heart the first day that I had to take her to nursery, and knew that that was it, back to work, into the trenches, so to speak. Life will never be the same again as it was during maternity leave. So it's brilliant that you're trying to carve out a new way, and that way is going to help you to feel good.
Yeah, totally. I think it's, and obviously my situation is some in some ways unique because I mean I have also, you know, sisters-in-law and stuff who are also on maternity leave at the minute, who have a very different experience, and everyone's experience is totally different, and I'm fully aware that mine is probably more unique in some respects, that I am a business owner. I do work for myself, so I have that sort of flexibility. But they do say you give up the 9 to 5 to do the 24/7, and I think that when things get busy in our business, we're in a kind of peak month at the minute, and this has probably been the busiest, and it is always the busiest month essentially of our year, and that comes with its pressures when suddenly the gentle, smooth sort of I'll do some work here and some work there suddenly becomes I've got to work full time now and I've got these pressures, and that does creep up on you, and unless you're looking ahead, and now I've been through the trenches a little bit with how busy we've been in the past couple of months, that I'm aware of what my limits are now, and when I need to call for help. But I think that it's yeah, I definitely agree it's different for everyone, and I think that it's something that I'm very kind of honored to be able to have this balance, but I'm totally aware that every month things have been changing, and you know, but when she's crawling and walking and whatever it may be, I feel like I'm gonna be running around the house trying to chase her and make sure she doesn't do anything. So I feel like as of right now it's working, but I'm both nervous and excited to see how things will go. But I'm just trying to stay as relaxed and as flexible as I possibly can be, so that when those changes do happen, I'm not going to be totally overwhelmed. I'm just going to let it happen, I suppose.
Hmm. And don't underestimate the way you're approaching it as well, because that can be missed so easily, because people just assume it has to be how it was, or it has to be the way they see other people doing it. So I think, the fact that you're trying to build something that you hope in time will model to your daughter something that she'll admire and be interested in, and take something from, that's going to help her in her future life, is brilliant, because that's what we want for our kids, isn't it? To model things and behaviour and ways of living that we hope will pay, for them to have a great life when they grow up. So, you mentioned about the 24/7 side of running your business, which I know all about. It's very difficult to get complete downtime, and you said you worked through your pregnancy pretty soon after having the baby. So what are you doing to try to really support yourself so that you can, as you say, thrive as a new mum and really enjoy this experience over the first, year or two, when there's so much happening with the baby?
I think, well, I'm still kind of learning what makes me unwind a little bit, and I think we have got a bit of a routine in our household where when my husband gets back, in the evening, I'll just immediately baby straight to him, and I go and have like a nice long shower, and to me that's become like my therapy every day, is just being able to just go and have that lovely long shower, and just feeling nice and clean and just feeling good and refreshed in the evenings, and that's kind of become my routine. But I think that when I'm not at work and when I'm not on a project or whatever it may be, and in the middle of whatever's going on, I do just like to do the simple things. I like to read and watch TV, and just play with my daughter and go out for walks, and yes, we're a family business, but unlike the perception of family businesses like Succession and stuff like that, we do actually really like each other. We love each other a lot, so we like to spend time with each other outside of work as well. So like, my parents will kind of come visit, or I'll see my brother, whatever it may be. So we do spend a lot of time together outside of work as well. So I like to just kind of do whatever, lean into whatever feels good, really. And often it's quite nice to just get I love music. I love listening to music and getting in my own world. So sometimes just getting my headphones in, getting Esme in her pushchair and just yomping for an hour, whatever it may be, that really does make a difference. So, but I am still finding what makes me feel good. I am still finding what relaxes me and makes me happy, and I'm not sort of, there is a perception, I suppose, when you look at things like social media where people will, talk about how perfect their lives are and stuff with a child and whatnot. And for some, I imagine that is the case. But I'm also not sort of putting pressure on myself to be like, well, why don't I like doing this? Or why is this not happening? Or why do I not feel good with this? So I'm not sort of expecting anything from myself in terms of that. I just, every day, if something makes me feel good, I'll do it, and if it doesn't, then I'll try and avoid it where I can. And just being able to just have a cup of tea sometimes and watch some telly, and have a cuddle with my daughter, or whatever it may be, anything really. It's these little things, I think, that are more important to me at the minute than anything else. So I'm still figuring out if I've got anything like set in stone that I love to do, but it's a bit of a mixture, really, I suppose.
And you made a really good point about social media and how people perceive others' lives to be. And that's across the board, isn't it? Not just for new mums. We all look at social media and can make judgments on what someone else's life looks like, and, compare ourselves to that, which for a lot of people is very damaging to them. It can be really difficult for them if their life isn't the way they think it should be when they see what they think is normal out there on social media. So it's brilliant that you are, as you said, doing what you need, but you're listening to your body by the sounds of it, your mind as well, and giving yourself just those small things which can make a huge difference. And actually, a lot of those types of things are what many people miss in their life because of how busy we are, and everything just becomes all, wrapped up and consumed together in a great big busy bundle. But when you do something like gratitude practice, for example, it's about getting into those little things, the micro things, as you said, just the 2 minutes of peace while you sip your nice cup of tea, or being out listening to the birds while you're pushing the pushchair. And those things, just recognizing them as you're actually experiencing them, is so impactful to your well-being, to your mind, that can be really beneficial to your brain overall. Practicing gratitude with being aware of things, more mindful, isn't it?
Oh, totally. I think that it is those little
Yeah.
things, and I think that because life can get so busy and can get so intense, and I mean, everyone says when you're pregnant, they say, oh, nothing will prepare you for it, nothing will prepare you for it. And you sort of go, oh, okay, yeah, 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 whatever, sort of thing. Like, you sort of take it in, but you don't really know what that means until you're in it. And it's really something you have to find out on your own. So, like, it's not something that, no matter how many times I heard from everyone around me giving me good advice when it came to, like, saying, look, nothing will prepare you for how you'll feel, nothing will prepare you for what you'll go through. I kind of was like, yeah, okay, I see what you mean, but I've got this, I'm all good. And for the most part, I do. And actually, there were certain elements, like I said, where I felt physically better, so that made, I felt like certain elements of being a parent versus when I was pregnant felt better, and I felt really good. But then actually, it is true, nothing will prepare you. There are things that you're just not prepared for, like, how you might feel every day will totally change, and what makes you feel good will totally change every day, or maybe how your day might completely be derailed because your little one needs something different, or their needs need seeing to in a way that you weren't expecting, and curveballs can be thrown in all the time. So yeah, those little moments of just, so you try, and I think you do try and kind of cling on to the little moments where you can, because it's not kind of as set in stone as things used to be. So while you're in the process, while you're in the moment, getting your head down and just getting by, you start to value those little moments. You start to value, like you said, that gratitude of being on a nice walk somewhere, or just sitting in the sun, or a cup of tea, whatever it may be. And those little things make the big stuff feel a little bit easier. So but yeah, it's a learning process, and I am now one of those people that says nothing will prepare you, but that's not a bad thing. It's just something that it's just something you have to figure out on your own. Everyone's situation, everyone's experience is totally different. So in that sense, nothing will prepare you, because you've got nothing to compare it to, really. Every baby is totally unique, and I saved so many tips videos on Instagram, and I watched all the YouTube stuff. I did all the online classes, and I took all the notes that science tells you this and this. But like, my daughter has her own personality. She's got her own likes and dislikes, and she's only 5 months old, but a lot of it I didn't even look at. I just cracked on and dealt with what she wanted in the moment. And in that respect, nothing will prepare you, because you end up kind of just dealing with what they need in that moment. So it's been a bit of a change in that sense. But yeah, those little moments are so key to just getting through every day, I suppose, in a good way.
Yeah, and especially the nice shower on your own with peace and quiet and tranquility at the
Yes.
end of the day. Yeah, you have to enjoy the pleasures of yeah, even being able to have a nice wash on your own. And I really hope, because of the line of work you're in, that you have been making lots of video content since she's been born, and you've been documenting this, because as you were talking there, I was thinking, oh, I can see a documentary coming on the back of this.
Oh, well, she has at times. We've been at event shoots, or we've been somewhere, and we've just thought, oh, just get a shot of her for the for the promo, whatever it may be. Like, she's gonna spend her entire life going, Mum, please stop putting me in promotional films. I don't want to do it anymore. But I just, yeah, we've got an abundance as a family of audio visual equipment that we could use to capture her across her life. So mainly I've got thousands of pictures on my phone, but yeah, she's definitely going to be front and center in the spotlight whenever she wants to be. But she might, as a daughter from a family of creatives, she might turn around and tell us she's not interested. So we're fully prepared for that to happen as well. So we might put her off
Oh.
completely. Who knows?
Brilliant. So, is there a tip that you would give to someone who's, not necessarily a new parent, but just someone who is struggling with that balance when maybe they've got their own business or just in a really busy job, like a lot of people, and they're hearing you and thinking, God, she's doing this and she's got a new baby. What would be one thing you'd maybe give to someone that they could try to make a little change in their life to feel healthier?
Um, I would. It's difficult. It's a good question. I think because everyone's situation is totally different. But if someone's situation is similar to mine in some respects, of working for themselves, or running a business, or having a busy job, whatever it may be, or something that they actually are passionate about, something that they love, is my number one bit of advice would be to just not put pressure on yourself, and to not panic if things don't seem right or don't feel right in the moment, because it will gradually come back, and you might not feel like yourself for however long it may be. You might not feel exactly like you did before you were pregnant, or whatever, or if you became a parent in other means, or whatever it may be. But you don't feel 100% like yourself, but you feel 100% like someone new, and it's quite, you don't lose anything, you don't lose any part of yourself, you just kind of gain new bits, and things change and transform. So you're still 100% you, but that 100% might be made up of different things than before you were pregnant or before you had your child. And it's quite it's quite a fun experience, being able to work out what those things are, and work out what makes you happy, what makes you nervous now, what makes you confident, what makes you excited, and all these things are new. And actually I've enjoyed the process of getting to know my daughter, and getting to know who she is, and what kind of weird traits she has of me, and whatever it may be. But also I've also quite enjoyed getting to know myself again, and knowing kind of what I'm interested in and what I like, and that's scary sometimes, but it's also a lot of fun. And I think if you are someone who, a bit like me, has kind of built a business around their name and their identity and everything like that, and noticing that shift is that you can take all those elements and all the negative things, you can take everything that's going on and make it a positive. You can turn things into a good thing, and even if it's the slightest tiny change, and just not put pressure on yourself, and just try and enjoy it where you can. And if you need to take a 20-minute shower, then do it. Baby will be absolutely fine. That would be probably my advice. It's a bit jump around, but hopefully that answers the question.
I think that was brilliant advice, and I felt as though you were actually talking to me because of how I feel actually at the moment. And as we're recording this, I've been doing a lot of stuff around menopause for my program that I've recently brought out. And as you were speaking, it just sounded just exactly how I think and what I advocate, in that we all go through different seasons of our lives. And as women, we have very unique seasons. You know, we have our menstrual cycle, fertility, then pregnancy for some women, which isn't always easy. It can be a very difficult time. Having your baby, you know, whether you're a mother or father, having children is a challenge and a big season, and that changes as they age. And then for women, obviously perimenopause, menopause, post, and so on. There's just so many changes, and you're right in that it's very easy to feel as though you've lost something when those new things, and it doesn't have to be those biological seasons, but just could be changes like a new job or a move to a new location, anything, isn't it? So I think that was really brilliant advice in terms of just pausing and just thinking, well, okay, so what could come out of this for me? What do I need because of this shift and change? And not to look backwards, but to try and look forward to what might be. So you were very profound there. I like that, Izzy. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. I've never been described as such, so I'll take that.
Take that, yeah. So if anyone's listening thinking, what is this business that she runs? What is it that she does that's so creative? If you want to let people know how they can reach out, and I'll pop it into the show notes as well.
Yes, of course. So I co-run a company called Howell Media. So that's HOWELL Media. It used to be my surname before I got married, but it is still my dad's surname. Family business. We make creative video content, video production company, but we also do all kinds of creative content creation across the board. We do a bit of everything. But yeah, we are a lot of fun to work with. We work with all kinds of organizations, and we're all about making other businesses look amazing. So that's sort of what I do on the day to day. But you can find us at www.howellmedia.co.uk, or we're Howell Media on LinkedIn and Instagram and elsewhere. So we're all over the place. But my personal kind of video editor sort of side is called Issy the Editor on Instagram, and you can look at sort of tutorials that I do and different things about video editing if that's what interests you. But yeah, that's us.
Fab. And I mean, really, these days, most people are interested in video in some form or another, aren't they? So check it out and see what you can learn. I could probably do with some tips myself.
Oh, well, we have our own
Oh, well,
podcast, so
thank
we'll
you. Yeah.
definitely cover that.
Oh, yeah, you've got your own podcast. What's the podcast called, Izzy?
It's called Looks Like We Made It, so I'm looking forward to you being a guest on that.
Oh, I'd love that. Yes. Come along. I'm not sure what I might be able to add on video, but yeah, we'll have a chat, that's for sure. Oh, well,
Oh,
thank you so much. And I do honestly wish you the best of luck, you know, balancing it all as you come back to work. But the approach you've got is one that really is going to stand you in good stead. And it sounds like you're going to have lots of fun as well, especially when she starts crawling. Get lots of safety locks and cupboard latches and things like that.
yeah, we'll keep the expensive equipment on a high shelf, don't worry. But yes, thank you so much for having me. I've had a
Oh,
lovely time, and hopefully some of that is of interest. So yes, thank you very much for having us again,
oh,
Nicola.
I'm sure it will be. You're welcome. Thanks, Izzy.
Thanks, bye.